Welcome back. Debating, interrogating and analysing black leadership in the 21st century here in Kirklees. We have Mrs St Louis and Pastor Napier. Okay. Just before the break, we were talking very much about the divisions amongst the African Caribbean community and this kind of small island mentality, a lack of support or massive support with the so-called small islands. Mm-hmm. And then when the prestige and the papers and all these things started to happen, how the small countries like Grenada and Trinidad and Barbados felt left out by the Jamaican community. What I found very interesting was that we never once thought of the African community. The Ghanaian, we have a Ghanaian community here, we have a Congolese community here, we have an Ethiopian community here. It's a very, very strong African community here. What do you think the challenges will be to integrate those with some of the things that we've been talking about here this morning? Do you think they have a part to play?
Well, personally speaking, I do work with quite a number of indigenous African community, and I'm appalled that they are not more integrated in the community. For example, churches in Huddersfield have a wide membership of African community people, Congolese, Ghanaians, from all over, those especially who are seeking refugee. What I do find out, and I've raised this at several meetings, I cannot understand, after being here for 10 years, why there is not much more involvement in the African part of our community. But I do think we have moved. It's not only just Caribbean, West Indians living now. The demographics of Huddersfield has changed. We now have a lot of indigenous African brothers and sisters here. And we need to open our arms, we need to open our fellowship, and we need to give them space within our community so that they can sit on our board, they can join in the debate, in the conversations that we're having, in the funding, and also in the mixing of our cultural diversity.
You have to admit there is a large African people from Africa in Huddersfield. And honestly, I can't see that happening unless we ourselves have groups and associations where we could have something that, we could get them to come and join and involve them with. We haven't got anything together that we could actually welcome them as part of the community. Yeah.
Who is to blame? How much ownership do we have to take for the situation we find ourselves in? Or is it other areas like the socio-economic factors, environmental factors, the political voice?
We, as black people, if we had something going, then we could have been a bit more,
together.
Yes.
I think this is one way the fusion could have been much better. Faith is a very powerful thing. It joins people of all nations and races together. And I know within the churches in Huddersfield, nationally and internationally, we find African, Caribbean, Asian, English, Europeans, everybody. It can take place. It's not that it cannot be done, but if the church leaders start doing it, then maybe it will start to spill over into the community and they can refer them. The only way we are going to do it is by proper networking and, again, I would say, communicate. We've got to begin to talk. We cannot run away from it. It's here. We've got to deal with it. Well, personally, for me speaking, I think it's about changing of attitude. If we can just get people to begin to change their attitude, I think we are on a winner. But if people's attitude don't change, I'm afraid the problem is still going to be with us. We've got to educate people about history. We've got to educate them about diversity and working together. It's lacking in our community. The school's not doing it. But none of us from the African Caribbean community are willing to get up and put our agenda aside and says, look here, this is for the good of our children. This is for the good of uniting and bringing the coming together under a cohesive banner. So let us put aside everything and let's talk. For example, myself, go to the churches, speak to the leaders. We need each other. The council is to take part of this blame because the council has marginalized the church. They will not fund them. They will not speak to them. They are on their own. And until the church realized that we pay taxes in this community, our children access the schools, we've got rights like any other group. And until they let their voices be heard, we are still going to be debating this until we put words into action.
Why should the council have any responsibility in funding the church? I'm just interested to know that.
Because the church is part of the community. If you can provide funding for any community group, you should provide the funding for the church, because they do the same job or even more. But in those days, the churches was like a closed door. Well, the church has moved on from that. We more give than we receive. We're not involved in Bible bashing and forcing people. If you come to Shabbat for a cup of soup, you can take the cup of soup and never come back. You have no obligation. And unless the church begin to wake up and think, listen, the gospel is one thing, my community service is another thing. Find the people you want to spread the gospel to in India, Africa, in your local community, spread it. But when it comes to humanitarian provision, it's for everybody, whether you're from the church or not from the church, black or white, male or female, whichever nation. It's our duty to feed you and give to you without any strings attached.
So we're talking about spiritual leadership and leadership, non-spiritual leadership, if for want of a better word. Then can the two be fused?
Speaking from a pastor's point of view, Christian leadership and spiritual leadership is just as important. Man is also spiritual, and all aspects of man have got to combine for that man to be total, to be fulfilled, and to be happy. There is no point in balance in his economical sense, and his social sense is down. He's got to get it right. And that's why I say the church cannot impose just the spiritual realm on any human being. That is wrong.
Can spiritual leadership come with, say, non-spiritual leadership with regards to what the pastor was saying?
I think women would look at it from a different point of view. You know, I just think so.
You think women would look at it from a different point?
I think so. Well, we would be more welcoming, more, ready to help in various ways, and men would be there just waiting to pass the orders.
But my leadership is 90% female. I have no problems. I raise them up. They speak, they preach, they teach, they run, they organize a church. There is no difference in my organization where women are concerned and the men. I get more support from the women. They are more faithful, they are more committed. What Mrs. St said, it's right. But I think for years, from a church point of view and also from a cultural point of view, women have been led down the path that they are just homemakers, wife, stay at home. And since women liberation, it's changed. The women in the Western world have changed things. The American women have changed things. So women from Africa and the Caribbean are now learning. We are no longer the subordinates. We've got fingers and hands, and we've got a brain. We're going to put it to use. Well, I'm glad women have arrived.
Okay, we're just going to take one more break. Be right back after this.